Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Entry Gladiator, today with Pillar Loves Tabletop Games. Today's episode, finally, I can bring you Risk Godstorm. My favorite alternate takes on the Risk concept. As part of the setup for the game, you'll have your choice of pantheon, which will come with its army figures, war elephants to represent 5 army figures, and best of all the various gods. The War God, the cross swords, which starts in play. The Death God and the Cloak. The Goddess of Magic with her crystal ball. And the Sky God. And riding a tornado for gust to win. We'll start with a number of territory cards. After, 4 territory cards are used to create plague lands. Now, unlike the previous game of it, Risk 2210 AD, these do not prevent entry. However, every turn they will exact a toll on the armies that are there. But you'll roll to see who gets to pick which pantheon. They're functionally identical, but if you have a preferred color, you might really want to roll high for it. Or players can just agree to what colors they want and then roll for first. Starting with the first player, these territory cards will be dealt out. Depending on what territories you get, you will place an army at those locations. Players will count out a number of armies before doing this, because after placing, they will reinforce 3 armies at a time to any territories they start with. And after everyone's done that, they will place their temple and their war god in play. Players will start with 3 faith. That will come in handy for bidding on turn order and also getting miracles later. The underworld board will be set aside. As armies are killed, they will go to their respective heavens, where they can then deploy to the underworld and take over crypts and altars. They can use a crypt to come back or altar to empower god wars. And then the turn reference will have the epoch ring on first. This game has a hard time limit, and I'm grateful that it does. Alright. So at the start of each epoch, players will take whatever faith that they have and secretly bid it. Any number, you can bid 0, they can bid all 3. The player that bids the most has their choice of the turn order tokens, whether to go first, last, somewhere in between. If there's ever a tie for bid, the players will roll off. The higher number gets to decide. So once the bidding is done, the actual turns will begin. Starting with turn order number 1. You will raise armies and gather faith. It's based on the number of territories you have. So at the start of the game, everyone has either 9 or 8 territories if it's a 5-player game. It's a 42 card deck divided 5 ways, and then some people are going to get extras. So at up to 11 territories, it is 3 armies. is start crossing the thresholds of 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36, 39, and 42. You'll get one more. So with that many territories, I've got 3 armies that I can put anywhere I'd like. Let's prepare these forces for the fight. And start getting a better foothold in Atlantis. In addition, for every temple you control, oh yes, in addition to the armies, you get faith. In addition, for every temple you control, you will get an army in that temple and one more faith. Once you've done that, once you've done that, you can now bring more gods onto the board. To summon a god, it takes, I believe, 3 faith, and they are summoned in any territory where you have at least 1 army. It's also possible for gods to be banished, and you'll be able to summon them back as well. You need gods in play to draw miracle cards. So let's see here. I want to summon Freya, goddess of magic. Where do I want her? Well, kind of have a difficult choice over here, but we'll join this force. So that cost 3. Depending on what gods you have in play, they'll have certain effects in combat and open up certain labors that, if completed, will allow you to draw miracle cards. If you have 5 faith, you can take your armies, take this location where your army is, and build a temple there as well. Temples are where your armies that come back from the underworld will arrive. And they also have a good defensive setup of letting you re-roll ones. So once you spend your faith here, then it goes to obtain miracle cards. You need to have the matching god in play and 2 faith to draw one. I don't have enough to draw one, so I'm going to be aiming to complete labors this turn. But if I did, I could either draw war or magic, because those are the ones I have in play. There are also the miracle cards for sky and death. You can only obtain a maximum of 4 miracle cards this way at this point of the turn. The cards you get through the labors don't count. And you have to obtain all your cards before you get to actually look at them. So let's cover what kinds we got here. We got war cards. Fairly cheap to actually play. Most just say play on your turn. Very few require sacrificing faith. But they're just a one-shot effect, and they help you out, including destroying other people's relics. Speaking of magic, magic gets you relics. Relics stay in play and provide you with a permanent bonus. Some of them are legendary locations. As long as you control that territory at the end of the game, you get a final point, a final bonus point. Sky miracles are reactive. They say play when attacked, and might even include additional factors as play when attacked and only if the attacking player controls the temple. They are there to react to your opponent's aggression and punish them for it. And finally, death miracles. They require a considerable amount of faith sacrificed to utilize, played on your turn, but they can be very devastating, like destroying all relics in play or sinking Atlantis. Yes, I have to feature this because this is probably one of one of the things this game is probably remembered best for is the ability to sink Atlantis. Everyone there goes to the underworld. Gods are banished, temples are destroyed, and plagues are gone. Yeah, imagine being able to do that to Australia in the normal risk. The labors for each war conquer three or more territories on your turn. It's not a conquest if there's nobody there. So you have to actually kill other armies as part of it. Magic rolls at least three of the same number. Whether you're attacking or it's part of a god war. Sky, defeat one or more gods on your turn. I'll get into the god wars here in a sec. And finally, control a crypt at the end of your turn. Crypts are in the underworld, but each of those require you to have that god in play to trigger the labor. But once you've attained miracle cards, you have the opportunity to play the war and death cards now. The sky cards will be played in reaction, and the magic cards are immediately put into play whenever you get them. The next step is to suffer plague. So far, we've avoided the bullet plague. Let's say we successfully kicked out all those freaks and invaded into here. Where we've got this little plague token. You lose half of your armies, rounded down. So three, one and a half, one guy dies. Is sent to Valhalla, not through valiant battle, but through horrible plague. Anytime your armies die, they will go to their respective heaven, where they can then deploy into the underworld at the end, towards the end of the epoch. Let's reset that though. All right. Any gods that are in a plague land, which is why I was kind of hesitant to bring her over here, are banished. After suffering plague, we go into invading territories. So now you can attack from adjacent to adjacent. There'll be lines that show the sea crossings that you can attack across as well. Corsica is its own little island fortress. Atlantis has at least three ways to get into, so it's not super Australia, but still, it's a nice little corner. So first, you need to have at least more than one. So if I only had, one person here, I'm not taking on that fight over here. You cannot attack across mountain ranges. They'll just block the path. You want to try to attack to gain control of continents because those also provide bonus armies and bonus faith at the start of your turn. Europa is the big prize, then Germania and Africa, and then Asia Minor and Atlantis, and then Hyrcania. Low prize, but it's easy to take it over. You must, again, have at least two. You can attack any number of territories you like in a turn, as long as you have at least two armies in a territory. Now, a god does not count as an army, but can be part of the attacking force to provide their benefit. You can declare whether or not you're going to include in the invasion. And if you do, and your opponent, let's say I was going to attack from here into here. Because we both have gods, there's going to be a God's War fought first. Each player gets 3 dice and will add the number of their armies to the total. Again, the defender has a temple, they'll be able to reroll ones. The attacker, having a god of war, will be able to win ties at least. Any additional gods can provide their power as well, but you have to at least nominate someone who's going to the front. In addition, if you have someone in control of an altar, that also adds a die to your die roll, or adds a die to your dice to roll. And finally, if your sky god is part of the fight, they'll also add one more die. So both sides will roll. So there's 14 plus 5 is 19 versus 12 plus 5 is 17. So Thor beats up Ares, banishes him back, and now only one side has gods, so it's going to go to the regular turn. If at this point I had rolled three of a kind, I would have drawn the magic miracle. But now it goes to the normal attack. If you've played Risk, this is going to be very familiar. You can take a number of dice up to 3, or one less than the number of armies you have there, because you'll have to leave one behind. The defending side can take a number up to 2, as long as they have at least 2 there. You can always choose less, but sometimes it's just better to just be aggressive as hell. So roll, roll, and then pair them up. Classic Risk, pair up the highest and then the next highest. So the higher number defeats the lower number, and it does it again. On a tie, let's say this was a tie instead. The defender normally wins ties, but if you got your God of War and you're attacking, and you win the tie. Fair warning, if someone is attacking with their God of Death, Opposing armies do not go to the underworld. You've been warned. After you've made at least one attack, you have the option to call it off. However, you probably want to see how far you can go before that happens. Although, depending on what kind of sky miracle someone played, you might want to call it off after that first attack. They made it really hard. So, we're going to go ahead and roll one less die. And losing 1 and 1. Eventually, we get to the point where, wait, they get to reroll ones. Never mind, that was another. So at this point, I'd probably call off the attack because I've just lost a few guys that I really don't want to lose too many more. But I can probably go attack in some other places. Anyway, if you do succeed in wiping out everyone there, you can send all but one of your attackers. But imagine you'd have to send at least the number that you rolled with on your last attack roll. If, yeah, at least those main armies as the number of dice you rolled. If you invade a plague land, you will immediately lose half your forces rounded down, and the gods will be banished. Every territory you control at the end of the game is going to be worth a point. So start taking them over. And then this one conquest counts as one towards the 3 I need for a war miracle. That didn't happen, so I'm just going to go back there. Once you are done declaring attacks, you can fortify position. Move as many armies and gods as you desire from one, and only one, of your territories to another. They do not need to share a border, but you must be able to travel from the first territory to the last an unbroken path through land territories you control. So, imagine by land territories they mean not the underworld. So, where do we want to boost our stuff here? Well, we're kind of screwed. Yeah, because that division there. Yeah, I'm kind of at a point where I can't actually reinforce. I don't think. Unless I can move some people off of Sicilia to here or to here. I kind of want to hold my island. Yeah, once you've done fortifying your position, now we go into the fun of the underworld. Your recently dead units will then deploy to either one of these gates or where you already have armies. And then you can move to attack. Each army can move a space. If you move into opposing space, then you'll have to fight the battle as normal. Units that die in the underworld are permanently dead. You can get more later from the usual recruitment. And like mountains, the fire cannot be crossed. It may be in a position where all these gates are occupied, and you're going to have to start by invading one of them. What you're trying to do is control crypts, especially if you have a death god, because you'll be able to return an army from a crypt to your temple as part of the start of the turn recruitment. Alternatively, control an altar to give your gods the advantage in god wars. But once you resolved all your fun in the underworld, if you're in control of the crypt and you've got a death god in play, then you'll get the death miracle. And then it goes to the next player. Whoever's got the two. And then from the two to the three, four, and five, they've got five players. Everyone's taking their turn. It moves up to the next epoch. And so on and so forth until the game is over at the fifth. At the end of the fifth epoch, that's it. Points will be scored as follows. Every territory you control, your continent bonuses, every crypt and altar you control in the underworld, and every relic you have in play with a territory bonus. So let's say one that I have right now. You got Thor's hammer. I would have to be over here to claim that point. If they drew it, they already have that point, period. The most points will win, and then tiebreakers are as follows. Most remaining faith tokens, because it helps to be economical. Most temples, that representation right there. Most gods in play. Yeah, only got two, so that helps. The most armies in the earth. The underworld doesn't. Yeah, the underworld doesn't count as territories for a lot of stuff. So bear that in mind. Uh, and then if there's a tie, then they share dominance of the ancient earth. Otherwise, or was that the most points or the tiebreaker drives out all the other pantheons from Earth. They are the supreme gods of the ancient world. Uh, the game also includes rules to classic risk, which is the only other use for the territory cards. They include a couple wild cards for it. Otherwise, this deck is only ever used for one very specific miracle. But the classic risk rules are included, along with the classic two-player rules. So why do I like this game? Because this is some crazy shit. You got, you know, gods and goddesses and miracles and fighting in the underworld and being able to sink Atlantis. I mean, just a just a wild ass time. And you know what? That's fine with me. When it comes to, you know, gods messing with the world kind of game, this is like my number two. Um, with Chaos in the Old World being number one. But that game's horribly out of print and horribly expensive. But they brought this game back, and so I have it, and I'm going to play the hell out of it. Perhaps literally. All right. That is Risk Godstorm, recently reprinted. A bit on a bit on the pricey side, but I think it's worth it. Go check it out, play it, have fun. And good luck taking over the ancient world. I'll see you there. All right, thanks for watching. This has been Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, and I'll see you next time.